Oh, the heck with it. I'm just going to go ahead and go. Hey there, I'm Bill DeYoung. This is the Catalyst Sessions, and we got a really great show for you tonight, as it were. If you haven't been with us before, what we're doing is trying to keep our arts community connected in a virtual way, from my kitchen to their house, to your house, to your living room, your car, your phone, wherever you are. And we do it every weeknight, and this is show number 26, maybe. Wow. It's doing really well. I want to introduce you to three gentlemen that you probably are very well familiar with. This is La Lucha. Hello, gentlemen. How you doing?
Hey, Bill. How are you?
Well, thank you.
We got Mark Feinman up there. We got Alejandro Arenas, and we had Mr. John O'Leary on the piano. Listen, you guys met, if I got this right, in the USF music department about 15 years ago. So
yeah.
I wonder, there's a lot of talented young musicians running around there. Why did the three of you connect?
We were all very passionate about the tuba, which was the instrument that John played. Yeah. No, actually, we did not. We were all passionate about jazz. And John was just, Mark and I go a little way before USF. We actually met before that. But then John was just kind of running around. He's the friendliest person in the world. And he was just really kind of running around like he's doing right now in his house. And
there he is, yeah.
Yeah, so he really kind of, we just met each other. Personality just kind of blended, and musically, the minute we started playing music together, it was kind of like, oh, this feels right. You know, we played with a lot of different musicians there. We had fun, but the three of us just had a very special connection.
I mean, you're from Colombia. Mm-hmm. And John, you're from Yucatan in Mexico, if I remember correctly. Mark, you're from Clearwater, so we're going to leave you out of this for a minute.
I'm the exotic one in the band.
Well, yeah, I guess. Is there some kind of, the fact that, what kind of training, I guess, or before you came to the States, Alejandro, you and John, is there something in the DNA there that says, maybe you matched the same kind of rhythm because you knew it already. Maybe it was in your blood, and that's why it works so well together. Or am I terribly stereotyping you here? I don't know.
There's definitely a thing for the music of your childhood. And I think a lot of that can really stick with you.
Yeah.
And there's, early musical influences really matter, I think, helping your development and the type of, especially when you're a child, your brain is still forming, and how your brain forms and what it determines its importance and its development. And so I grew up in a household of classical music. My mom was a concert classical pianist. She studied at the Tchaikovsky Conservatory in Moscow, and she just took me along. She was a single mother, so she took me along everywhere she went, her rehearsals with a ballet, with an orchestra, with an instrumentalist. And so that was like the thing that I listened to the most, the radio, and of course you can't escape the tropical and music of the Americas, So like the música tropical is what it was called when I was growing up, and it was what, like, if you go take your car to get fixed, the mechanics that we went to, they used to listen to that station and they would put that on, and I hated it growing up. I liked American music. I would listen to This Is How We Do It by Montel Jordan, and I would listen to Boyz II Men. This was in Yucatan, right? So
you're a child of the 80s, I'm guessing, or early 90s, maybe. Yeah.
The 90s, yeah.
So for me, it was, I had my Boyz II Men cassette tape, and that was awesome. I was probably the only kid in 100-mile radius that had a Boyz II Men cassette tape.
So my pedigree was even heavier musically speaking. My mom couldn't carry a tune, and neither could my dad. And really, we had no music in the house. I was just very passionate about it. And my parents were, actually, I was exposed to a lot of American music. Oddly enough, a lot of disco. Because my dad used to own a gym in Colombia. And what he did is that he used to put, for aerobics, he used to do like mixtapes. He had all these records of like disco stuff, which was, kind of like the dance music of the era, the four on the beat, four on the floor. And so I was exposed to a lot of that stuff growing up, but I also had a really strange taste. I first started on guitar. I fell in love with like flamenco music and some classical guitar, but then I discovered surf rock guitar. So I actually, just like John was saying, he was weird going around. I was really strange going around because all I used to want to play was the Ventures, the Safaris, all of this stuff. It was way like nobody around me could understand this at
Man,
all.
I could never have pegged this
taste.
with you. Yeah, I could never have said, I bet you were listening to Dick Dale, and Ventures records, man. Wow. And Mark, you were in a punk band. Is that right? Did I hear that?
Yeah, I was really into Colombian and folkloric Mexican music growing up. No.
We got the way. Yeah. It's,
yeah.
The tuba joke was funnier, but okay.
Yeah. So I grew up in Clearwater. I, opposite from Alejandro, actually grew up in an extremely musical family. My first influences were my parents. Both my parents are drummers. My dad's still a professional drummer. Mm-hmm. My grandmother was a pianist. My uncles, everybody plays an instrument. It's just the rite of passage in my family. And my dad had a huge record collection. My mother had a huge record collection. So I listened to everything. I listened to oldies. I was listening to disco music, and I was listening to music on the FM radio, so pop music. But when I found my own music, it was punk rock. I have an older sister who brought home a Green Day album, Kerplunk, which was before Dookie in 94. It was like 92, 93 maybe. And I was obsessed. And she made a cassette tape for me, only of the first side that could fit. So I didn't even know the whole album. And my dad made a promise to me that if they came to town, he would take me. And when I was 8 years old in 1994, he took me to a Green Day concert, and I saw everything I didn't need to see as an 8-year-old. And I said, that's what I want to do the rest of my life. And I just wanted to be a punk rock musician. And then really soon after that, I was hearing jazz in the house as well. And I heard Art Blakey, who was, much, much earlier. And I thought they were contemporaries. I thought Green Day and Art Blakey's band, I thought it was punk rock. It was fast. It was exciting. It was loud. It was just music.
Jazz, you guys don't play traditional sort of bebop jazz and stuff, but what you do really is a melting pot of all these things. It's safe to say that, because you don't just sort of do the Great American Songbook. You don't go out there and we're going to do a whole Miles Davis. Didn't you do an album of all synthesizer music once?
Yeah, our last album, Palante. We did. Yeah, it was, the more, as we've grown up, when we were in jazz school, we were really kind of like, that was my jazz nut period, So I'm like, I'm going to dive into this. And for 7 years, I didn't listen to anything but jazz. And I didn't, I grew up listening to heavy metal, and that just went out the wayside. I'm like, okay, in addition to surf rock guitar, of course.
Yeah, right. Right.
And oldies. But in any case, there was a point within our development that we just kind of realized, like, man, it's great that we're playing this wonderful music, but we have very little connection to it from a generational standpoint.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was beautiful to be able to have that ability with that's the beauty of jazz, that you can fit so many different styles within that. So as we started growing up and as musicians and as people, we got more comfortable in our own skin playing what we wanted to play. So that album, Palante, was our first all original album, and we just wanted the songs to be what the songs wanted to be. So if something sounded poppy, then so be it, but let's just, that was kind of, we
were taking, we were making an album, we were making a recording of exactly what was happening in the last 18 months to 2 years of the three of us, which was, we were really into, synthesizers and electronic music, and influenced by music that we're hearing on the radio. And so we recorded and documented what we were, feeling at that time. And the same thing for the next record that's about to come out. It's documenting what we've been through at that moment.
Well, let's talk about that. The record is called Everybody Wants to Rule the World. And it's part of me says, oh, that's a Tears for Fears reference, man. Why is it called that? Let's go there first.
So, you go ahead, John. Yeah, no.
Okay.
In 2014, we released an album, Standard Non-Standard. And we have a version of Everybody Wants to Rule the World. So it's a song that we've been playing for a while.
So it is the Tears for Fears song, yeah.
Yes. It's a song that we love. And so when we collaborated with Ken Poplawski, he was a producer and a performer in the album. And as we were talking about material to record, he had listened to our take and he said, hey, I would love if you guys did an instrumental version of this because I really like the arrangement. I think it would be great. So we decided that was awesome. And as we decided and confirmed the guest artist that we could have on the album, we thought that Melissa Aldana would be a fantastic person to play on that, to take the singer version of that. She's got a very lyrical quality to her playing. And it's just beautiful and haunting the way she plays it. And so then when we were doing a photo shoot for the album, we went to this furniture store and we were rearranging things. We were having the opportunity to do our photos and get our promotion stuff ready. And as we went to the back to unload and load all the stuff, somebody was playing on the radio, Tears for Fears. That song was playing on the radio. And Alejandro and I looked at each other in that moment and we were like, this has got to be the name of the album. This is like our aha moment.
Well, on top of that, when we went out back to take photos, the old World Liquors sign, the World Liquors on Central and 23rd.
It's on Ferg. Is that Ferg's now?
Yes, it's behind Ferg's. Yeah, we went out back there and the photographer was like, hey, jump up there and take some photos because there was some old Tropicana field, like sun rays. And so we jumped up there and we didn't know until the photos came out that we were standing next to the word world next to us from World Liquors. And I know it sounds weird, but it was a little chilling. And when we went into the studio, we were up in New York and it was a snowy morning, actually, the day we started recording. And the three of us were just having these late night, early morning talks about the record and how things were going. And this song just kept coming back and kind of everything in our life and in social and economic, it just felt like the right thing to not only say musically, but we would hope that the title spoke to people personally and maybe something, musically, a message that we were sending across the whole album musically.
Can we listen to the single, which is called Por la Tarde, and you have to tell me what that means because Spanish is a little rusty. Por la Tarde.
So it has a very deep meaning. It's a song that I brought into the group. It means in the afternoon, or it's not afternoon delight. It's just in the afternoon, and it's basically. It was inspired. My titles usually don't mean a lot because I come up with a musical idea and then I think of the silliest thing that I can think. And I
often wonder how people title instrumentals.
Yeah, we have a lot of working titles that are not PG rated, just as jokes, as jokes. Yeah. So. Por la Tarde was just one. I was just sitting an afternoon. This tune just kind of came to my mind, and I'm like, oh, what do I title this? Okay, working title Por la Tarde, and it just stayed that way. So, because it took me an afternoon to write it, and it is based on a bambuco, which is a Colombian rhythm, and we can take a listen, and maybe we can,
Let's. Ken Poplawski he's your producer, but he plays the clarinet on this. Yeah.
Yes.
And who's the guitarist? Who's the guitarist on this track?
It's Diego Figueiredo. He's a wonderful guitarist from Brazil. Mark and I had an opportunity to work with him a couple of times with Osomdo Jazz, a few that David Manson had brought him to the Palladium.
Oh, yeah.
And so we knew him. And he was actually one of the first people that when we were going to have guests, we said, we got to have Diego.
Yeah.
So... I kind of wrote this with him in mind because the bambuco rhythm is very much guitar based.
And he came into the rehearsal. We were going to rehearse it. We were about to count it off, and he goes, "I have an intro."
I
And
love
then,
that about musicians. Yeah,
Actually,
okay.
no, he had an intro for a different song.
oh yes,
And
oh yeah.
and then that he
You're
like
right.
had prepared it and all that stuff. And then Ken said like, hey, Diego, it seems like like this tune would have a better, like, it was a completely different tune, so he's like, why don't you play an intro? It's like, okay.
Okay.
And that the take is what's on the
The
record.
take is what's on the record. Let's have a listen to it, and the four of us will sit here and stare at each other because it's audio. But Alejandro, you've got it queued up there. Let's have it.
I got it, yeah. Here it goes.
Take it down now because people are sick of looking at the four of us. Can you?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that's amazing about seeing your band is that I never kind of know what you're going to be doing when I see you. I've seen you with singers and I've seen you collaborating with horn players and I don't want to say whoever's in the room, but it's always a nice surprise. That must be kind of gratifying for you guys too. Say, yeah, let's do this tonight, or I feel this way.
Yeah,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it keeps us on our toes, and it allows us to feed different energies from different musicians, and it really allows us to grow as musicians and get to hear other people's stories. Because the three of us, we get to talk and play all the time. We've had conversations where we don't need to say anything to each other. It's true, and.
You're like the Grateful Dead in that way,
Yeah, and it's fantastic. Like we could, I mean, we've never driven silently or flown silently, but we could, and we would still be laughing and having a good time. But when there's another,
somebody has to lose a finger, it's not going to be me.
Yeah.
But sorry, I missed that part. What'd you say, John?
Somebody has to lose a finger in the band, it's not going to be me.
So what's going on with this album now, guys? So you're still, you had a launch party, I think, this month, like a launch show. Is everything kind of on hold now, or is it still going to kind of be available?
It's still going to be available. I think, we were going to have the Palladium release on April 23rd, and we had a couple of other dates around the state and some out of state that are on the verge. We're waiting to hear. But we're going to release it on June 12th. We moved it back. Originally it was going to be May 8th.
Yeah.
So we moved it back.
This week, yeah.
Yeah. So we moved it because right now, we debated it, and even though we can't really tour the album or anything like that, people are at home listening. to stuff. So we've had a good amount of pre-orders actually,
Yeah.
which is really good. It's really, really good to, and yeah, I mean, it's our first album under a label, Arbor's
Yeah.
Records,
Right.
which is just, it was incredible working with them because they just really gave us freedom
Yeah.
musically. They just, their priority, Rachel Dahmer, who runs the label, basically said, I want you guys to make your dream album. And that is when they're producing it, when they're giving you that freedom, is really incredible.
Yeah.
Tubas and synthesizers. Sorry, John. Yeah.
I think, yeah, I mean, what Alejandro was saying, I mean, we're in this New York recording studio with Bill Mawson as our engineer and Ken Poplawski as our producer. We have Melissa and Diego and Chuck Red and Mr. Houston Person. And we're just sitting there in this room, and the three of us are looking at each other like, is this real?
Yeah.
Is this
Yeah.
real?
Yeah.
But it's not like we don't deserve to be here. You guys earned the right to be there, and the head of the label recognized that. And,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to. Hey, John, I want to come back to you for a minute. You there?
Yeah. Yes.
I was going to ask you if you'd play something for me, but first I wanted to remind the people out there in the universe that you have a PhD in neuroscience.
Yeah, I do.
And you are probably the only piano player I've ever met who has such a degree. Give me the chicken or the egg thing here. Which came first, and why? Why are you a musician now and not being a neuroscientist?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Is it?
I grew up with music. Music was my first love, and I fell in love with music since I was a kid. I always loved music. I always performed. I've never had an identity as a person without music. And so when I went to get my PhD, it was the first time in my life that I was not with music as a thing. I always performed live. I always did concerts since I was like 6 years old.
But did you sort of think, oh, this can't be a career, I better go use the other side of my brain for a while?
The problem is that society doesn't quite give artists the platform necessary to become to make it as a living. You heard of Chris Anderson's The Long Tail?
I have not.
It's this idea that very few players get the majority of the work, and then the rest have a long tail. So Netflix uses a long tail, right? They have 10 movies that get the majority of the views, but they have lots of movies for all kinds of different people who like different things, and then the rest have just a niche thing. And so in music, it's like that, where some performers take the majority of all the revenue and all the possibilities, and then everybody else, there's a steep cutoff where everybody else is there. And so the hard part, it's a reality that making a living as an artist is hard, and harder than it is if you were a nurse or a doctor or an engineer, because just of the supply and demand of things. The first thing that goes during pandemic, during crises, are your extra spending. So, people are going to be less inclined to do art spending when they are trying to, counting their rice and beans and trying to make sure that they have enough to feed everybody at home.
This is a wonderful segue, John, for me to talk about the show that you guys are a part of on Sunday, which is called, remind me what it's called, We Are Family. Sorry, that's what it's called, of course. Alex Harris is doing it, and Cindy Stovall and Creative Pinellas and all kinds of wonderful people are behind it. Tell me, if we could, because we've only got a couple of minutes left here, but tell me, one of you, all of you, exactly what you're going to be doing on this thing on Sunday, which is at 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon, streaming.
So we're going to be collaborating with Helen French,
Yeah.
wonderful dancer. She runs Beacon and just a wonderful person and artist. And we're going to be doing a completely improvised piece. It's our first time working together. We were actually supposed to do this at Beacon before it was forced to be canceled on April 3rd, I believe.
Beacon would have been around this time. Yeah. Well, Helen is my guest tomorrow, so I'll get this story from her too. But
there you go.
you guys are going to be in a room together playing on Sunday.
We're going to be in a backyard.
6 feet apart, I guess.
6 feet apart, yes.
Quite a bit, yeah. Yeah. We each arrived at different times. The video will be shot from the roof, no joke. We spaced out in the backyard as much as possible. And it really was.
Is Helen going to be there in the place with you, or is she sort of virtual?
She'll be there. Yeah, she's gonna be running around and taking up a majority and dancing in the yard, and we're gonna be spread out through the yard as well. And it really is going to be our first time performing since beginning of March. So.
Well, we should point out, as John was saying, that it's tough times, particularly for artists and performers these days. And so this is a benefit for the Pinellas Arts Relief Fund, which means that when you buy a ticket, because it's a ticketed event, it's going to be lots of people, it goes towards helping artists during this time. Guys, I can't thank you enough. John, I was hoping you'd play us out on something, man.
Sure.
Sure. Alejandro, I don't know if you can play along with him virtually. Does that just create arrhythmia and
that's
total
a little
disaster?
Delay. That's okay. That's okay.
Unless it's an ambient piece.
Nobody wants to hear bass solos anyway. John,
I do. Big Jack Bruce fan.
Oh, there you go. John, can you do a solo thing of the Sundering?
Ooh, I could try that.
Yeah, this is a song that John wrote for the album, and it has this one actually, unlike mine, actually has a deep meaning, and it's about. You want to tell them, John?
Yes, the Sundering, I wrote it for the immigrant families that are separated at the border. Me being a Mexican person that came from America, that came from Mexico, I am very grateful to have been born an American citizen. And that could have easily been me, one of those kids over there. So this is the Sundering.
Beautiful. Thanks again, guys. And we'll see you on the other side of all this.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Take us out.